Hello, hello. West Dorset calling. Been a while. I've been busy. Been doing things. Little as possible, to be honest. But there we go. What a terrible year for gardening this is turning out to be. Nothing seems to want to grow. What is growing ain't very good. Germination rates are rubbish. It's got to be down to the climate. Anyway, I'll take you round the garden. Here we go. Gonna turn the camera around now. Hang on. So just for a change, we'll start in the high top greenhouse. You got some celeriac there coming on well. Giant Prague. It should do well in here. I do like celeriac. And then down here we've got some celery, which supposedly grows to 5 feet tall if you've got the right conditions. But ain't too bad in here. Tomato plants, they're alright. They're not the best. Normally picking tomatoes by now. Not this year we ain't. And a poor little watermelon down in there. He got to get his ass in gear because it's very short season left now. Now we're into June. And more tomatoes over here. Again, these here are Captain Beefheart. They should be up the top of the strings now. They're only halfway. So we're going to be a bit slow here. So let's go on. Move into the other greenhouse a minute. Excuse the rubbish everywhere. That's life. That's proper gardening for you. No show garden here. So we go. In we go. Nice and warm in here. Peppers. They're not doing too bad. They've been repotted 2 or 3 times. They're still going well. Sweet peppers only this year. Sweet corn, disaster. This is my 3rd attempt. So the ones here are 11 out of 40 that germinated. The rest rotted. And the first 2 lots didn't want to do anything at all. They rotted as well. Too cold overnight. So I've put some more to start again now. I know it's running a bit late in the year, but I need sort of 30 or 40 to go in the ground to make the plot worth doing. So there's some just starting to show now. I've gone for different compost again. I've been covering them up, keep the warmth in. They're just starting to show, so they will come on leaps and bounds if this weather warms up. And here we got cucumbers. Again, they should be up the top of the strings by now. They're halfway. Melons, can't remember what sort. Again, slow. Now this is a prime example of what's going on. This is basil. You look at the colour of that basil. There is no colour to it. They got their feet in lovely stuff. And that purple basil's going green. And it's got to be light levels, because there's plenty of nutrients knocking about. Leeks. These are experimental really. I want to see how big they'll grow by the end of August. For one of the local shows. I'm not holding my breath, but they could be okay. So let's go down the garden. Raised gardens, the little raised pallet collars. The wind we've had the last couple of days has been quite destructive with the broad beans. There's quite a few knocked over. They'll be alright, they'll do what they do. These are some strawberry plants. Had the strawberries off of them ages ago. They were in the greenhouse. So leave them now to grow on for next year. This is how bad things are, look. That is about the biggest courgettes that I've got. Again, plants ain't doing anything, you know, they just aren't, they're just not coping with it. Beetroot, loads of greens, just starting to heart up, not massive, not holding me breath. Fennel, growing. Shallot bed. The shallots are doing alright. They've been in for quite a long time. And I have found that the stuff I put in early-ish is doing better than the others. And the beans, broad beans that went in after the first lot I've just shown you, are monstrously tall, not massive amount of flowers. It's just the law of sod, isn't it, to be honest. Let's go and have a look at this a minute. You'll find this quite interesting. These are the onion pips. Now, there's one or two that have got really big, so these have come on leaps and bounds. Major problem I do have is that out of the 10 that I managed to salvage, 6 of them went to seed. So the 4 at the front that you can see are still growing on, and I got a piece of 3x2 here, so there's just 3" by 2" piece of timber. This will give you an idea of what size they are. There you go, that's a 3" by 2" piece of timber, and that's just in June. So in theory by August, for the first of the shows, they should be quite big. General junk, stuff that hasn't been planted, stuff that won't be planted. Marrows. This is a pile of horse manure from last year. I thought I'd put them in there so they could get their feet down and grow well, but again, it's been cold. Everything's suffering. Everything is suffering. Uchichi curry, Japanese squash. What a load of rubbish. Again, they're sat in horse manure with some sticks and rubbish over the top to help retain moisture. Yellow leaves, ever so pale. They just aren't going to do anything, I don't think. Show carrots and giant red onions in one of the raised beds, one of the steel raised beds. Constantly being attacked by blackbirds. The blackbirds have been in everywhere, rooting out the worms, so I've had to cover everything back over again. So much so I started these off. This is more carrots. These are main crop carrot in here. They're just starting to poke their heads up. I had to cover them back up with nets because the birds have been in on those, rooting about. Leeks, Leon Prize Taker, and some couple of parsnips at the bottom end, some spring onions, more celery, more leeks, more carrots. Potatoes going to flower. I've had a little feel under the compost. There's stuff in there, they're not too bad. It's lovely and damp. This is one of the Hugelkultur beds, so it should remain damp at all times. Parsnips in 3-foot deep holes full of compost, and yet again the ones down the lower part of the ground grow better than the ones up the top. Be interesting to see what they do. Next to that is some shallots, and then we have brassicas that we started off probably a bit too early, but hey ho, that's life. Can't remember what these are now. I'll flash it up on the screen anyway. So, oh, and there's the rhubarb, look. Still not growing, still not doing anything. It's getting loads of water, it's had plenty of fertiliser, and it don't want to do anything. So we haven't had a feed off of it yet this year. That's going to come out. I'm going to throw it in a big bin of compost and soak it next year and give it loads of food, and so if it don't do anything, it can go on the compost heap. Probably grow then. My onions, well, these are grown from seed, and they were doing really well until we've had the wind for the last couple of days, and it's actually started to flatten them. There's no way I can stand them up. I think they're just going to have to take their chances and see what they do. Apart from the beginning of that row there is the second lot of onion pips that I decided to put in the ground. None of them have gone to seed, and they're growing lovely, so I know for next year, put them in the ground, leave them alone. Where are we? More brassicas, and this might be interesting. I know there's some weeds about in here, but these were started off the traditional way, not in modules. These were started off in real deep wooden boxes and then taken out, and I use a bulb planter to plant them. But what I've found is when you use a bulb planter, what happens is you smooth the sides and you smooth the bottom, and then the roots can't penetrate. So I've done the same as usual, but I've got a little tool I've made up with a nut and bolt and some nails driven in the end, and I put it in the drill and I loosen up the earth as deep as I can. Then I put the plants in, and they've taken off and gone like good uns. And that's leeks, onions and shallots from last year. Left them to go to seed. The wildlife will like them anyway if nobody else does, and I can save some of the seeds off. So we just got one last little section to look at. and then I can go and have me dinner. Peas, first crop. Started off in gutters. I got them strung up pretty well, pretty tight because of the wind. Pigeons have been having a go at them. The blackbirds have been raking out the bottoms and having a go at the roots. Not a sign of any flowers, not one flower yet, and normally by this height we'd be seeing flowers, but there isn't any. Can't remember what they are. Brassicas. A few more show onions. They're down right to the bottom of the box, if not a little bit deeper. We'll see how they go. They're sweet candle. I love sweet candle. French beans, light in colour, crinkly leaves. Again, got to be down to the temperatures. Can't be anything else but. And just to finish off, this is that interesting bucket of potatoes that I was going to tell you about. I went to get some potatoes out to cook them, and they'd started to chit under the sink in the bag. So I cut off the chits that were moving, and I put them in a bucket, and I filled it up with compost, and that is the result. They're nearly ready to harvest. I should do that next week, I think, because they are starting to look real yellow. But again, I've had my fingers down in there and there's potatoes in there. So it just goes to show, you can eat the potato and just plant the eyes. Bonus. So there we go. That's the state of play in West Dorset. Keep on gardening.